Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today it is with great honor that I present the final match of the 2016 United States National Championships for Conquest LCG. To the left sits Rick Reinhart piloting Eldorath Starbane, while to the right we instead see Nathan Gardner playing as Packmaster Kith. Our Dark Eldar player begins today's game holding our initiative token, and planet number 1 is Barless, the forced random card discard planet. Kith's first deploy is to lay down a copy of her signature arm unit, Kith's Chimera Masters, deployed to planet number 1. They are a 2-cost 1/2 with command icon, and they also generate a 2/1 creature trait Chimera token as well, and either of those units is potentially going to be able to attack against whatever Eldorath lays down on initiative. Planet number 2 is Farron, the Rout, a non-warlord unit planet. Planet number 3 is Eloith, which allows a victor to look at the top 3 cards of their deck for any one card that they'd like, and especially important considering we've got the token-happy Kith on the table. Planet number 4 is going to be Taurus, and if you end up winning a battle at that planet, if you control fewer units than does your opponent, you can pick either 3 resources or 3 cards, and you gain that battle bonus. Our last planet is Iridial, the healing planet, and now it's going to be up to Eldorath to decide what exactly he wants to lay down. Currently in the early stages of the game, Kith is positioned to collect a couple of cards at planet number 1, and it's really anybody's game at this point. Our warlords could go anywhere. The entire Traxxas sector is their oyster. Kith generates another Chimera token wherever she shows up, and it looks like Eldorath drops a copy of Same Han Kinsman at planet number 4. So it's a 1-cost, 1 command icon, 1/1, but it gets +1/+1 whenever it's at a green planet, so it's currently going to be a 2-attack, 2 HP unit. We see a raid from Packmaster Kith, that's going to be -1 resource for Rick, and +1 resource for Kith. And now it's going to be back to Rick. Wherever he sends his warlord, he's got an opportunity to exhaust an opposing non-warlord unit, which could be a token, it could be an army unit, and that could be fantastic for flipping command. And I guess speaking of flipping command, at planet number 4, looks like Nathan indicates that he's allied with Chaos because he drops off a copy of the cultist trait Chaos Fanatics. 2-cost, 2 command icon, 1/2, and that's potentially going to be a card and a resource that Kith is now collecting that is denied of Eldorath. Planet number 3, we've got the Eldar Bealtan Guardians, 1-cost, 1/1 with 2 command icons, potentially going to be a couple of cards drawn by Rick each and every turn. Looks like planet number 1 is going to be contested by Eldorath. That is a Wild Rider Squadron. It's a 4-cost 3/4, just 1 command icon, but that is sufficient to break even with the Chimera Masters there. If Eldorath were to show up to planet number 1, he'd be able to exhaust that Chimera token, he'd steal initiative, and then the Wild Rider Squadron could handily swing, kill off the Chimera Masters, and then Eldorath could likely finish off the Chimera token himself. And we'd have to see a shield from Packmaster Kith to keep that unit alive long enough for it to retreat, and then to contribute to some sort of critical mass Chimera Swarm if we see a Chimera Den or not. At planet number 5, Kith has at this point dropped off a copy of Void Pirate. It's a 1-cost, 1 command icon, 1/1 +1 card bonus economy unit, and it looks like we might be either in our command phase or just getting ready for our command phase. Either player really could do a whole hell of a lot with their warlords at present. We see command tied at planet number 3. Kith drops an Incubus Warrior, 2-cost, 2 command icon, 3/1 warrior trait unit. But since Kith isn't allied with Eldar, we don't have to worry about Shuriken Catapult, boosting that up to an attack value of 6. But currently, if Eldorath were to go to, say, planet number 5, he could potentially turn his opponent winning 2 cards into his opponent winning no cards, and his snagging a card, killing off that economy unit. If Kith were to go to planet number 1, she'd generate a Chimera token, and she'd be able to deal quite a bit of damage to destroy that Wild Rider Squadron, but as a combat action, it could relocate itself away from danger to planet number 2, and just taking a look at the different planet types, we don't have a victory through green icons until planet number 5. So Eldorath is going to end up going to planet number 4. Kith goes to planet number 2. So Eldorath is potentially going to be able to trigger Taurus because he's got so few units relative to Kith. And Kith instead goes to planet number 2, which is going to allow her to rout a unit. So note that the Chaos Fanatics at 4 are exhausted. Planet number 1, no player wins anything. Planet number 2, Kith, who's generated a Chimera token, note that she still did that in the face of Taurus there. That's going to be 2 resources for her. Planet number 3 is going to be a push. Planet number 4 is going to be a total of 1 card, 1 resource there for Eldorath. So it looks like maybe economically Eldorath fared a little bit better because generally cards are valued more than our resources 1-to-1. It's more like 2 resources for 1 card. So, battle is going to break out at planet number 1. Kith, with initiative, is going to go ahead and swing. That's a copy of Gift of Isha, discarded as a shield. Fascinating to see such a powerful event thrown away as a shield. And now, what do we have, if anything? That is going to be a copy of Archon's Terror. So, for the 2 cost, it's a combat action event. Route target unit. That's going to be goodbye to that Wild Rider squadron. It's removed from that planet. That copy of Gift of Isha is gone, and that is a copy of Mighty Wraith Knight, forced randomly discarded. Normally that's a fantastic target for Gift of Isha. I believe it's a 6 cost 5/5 with 1 or 2 command icons, and when it enters play, you exhaust all non-spirit trait units, which is just an incredible effect. You know, if you can pull it out with Gift of Isha and it's fighting alone and you've got a 5/5 and everything at your opponent's disposal is exhausted. We're also going to be seeing a battle at planet number 2, and now is Kith going to choose to rout the Bealtaine Guardians, or looks like it is. That's going to set Kith up nicely the following round to win a couple of cards at our soon-to-be planet number 2, currently planet number 3, and now Eldorath and the same Han Kinsman there are going to be able to, I presume, kill off that copy of Chaos Fanatics. So, Eldorath's, the Warlord's kinsman, takes a swing, kills off the Chaos Fanatics, and that is going to be 3 cards drawn by Eldorath. So 4 units relative to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6. Yeah, so it wouldn't have mattered. Kith's reaction to generate a Chimera token is, of course, entirely optional, but it did not look like that's the case. So as our players go through their HQ phase, that's going to be a couple of cards, 4 resources apiece. Let's take a moment to just admire all of the fantastic swag on the table here. To the left, we see the Rock Bombardment Art playmat, which was awarded to the top 8 players at the 2016 USA National Championships here, while to the right we see the 2015 World Eater Tournament Sakea XV88 Broadside playmat, which was awarded at the World Eater Tournament for the 2015 side event that took place right before the 2015 World Championships, and there was also one award, or several, awarded at Adepticon 2015. And of course these tarot-sized planet cards, which just look absolutely fantastic, those were awarded to the top 8 at Worlds 2015. So just, a spectacular pair of players we've got here, and I believe they're both local-ish to Minnesota, if not Roseville, the heart of FFG itself. But I do believe this game took place in Columbus, Ohio, so they're quite a far cry from home. Our new planet number 1, by the way, is going to be Farron, the Rout, a target non-warlord unit planet. New planet number 5 is going to be our wild card planet, Karnath, which allows you to trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play. At planet number 1, this time we see a rather formidable signature army unit for Eldorath Starbane. It is going to be Starbane's Council. 3 cost 3/3 with a command icon. Whenever it happens to be so fortunate as to be attacking an exhausted enemy unit, it does so at a +2 value bonus. And outside of Suffering, that is going to be a total swing of 5, but what kind of stinks is now it's going to be Eldorath on initiative, so 3 is certainly going to be sufficient to kill off that Chimera token at planet number 1 outside of something along the lines of an Agnizer of Bren used as shields, the 3 shield value signature attachment, but we could also see an Archon's Terror. At planet number 3, we see a copy of Siren Zithlex. That's the core set unique loyal Dark Eldar faction army unit. 3 cost 2/3 with a couple of command icons, and whenever an enemy army unit is deployed at her same planet, it enters play exhausted. So that's going to be a prime candidate for Eldorath to maybe again show up at Taurus and not only maybe activate that battle ability, but also be able to kill that nasty unit before it becomes a problem. At planet number 4, Vashya Trailblazer gives away Eldorath's chosen alignment. So that's a 2-cost 2-command icon, 1/1 mobile keyword unit. So at the beginning of the combat phase, it can opportunistically shift from its current planet to an adjacent planet. So it can win command, and then it can potentially move to wherever it is that you need it to win command the following round. So currently, both of our players here are going to have their movement somewhat constricted owing to the presence of a significant number of units in their respective HQs. Kith is going to be bringing a Chimera token and Chimera Master wherever she goes, and she's going to be generating a token, and Eldorath is going to be dropping off a Wild Rider squadron, which could, as a combat action, move itself, although it maintains its state, exhausted, to an adjacent planet, but it's also going to be bringing that essentially counting 0 command icons, Bealtan Guardians. So looks like Kith has decided to play a copy of Slith Mercenary, but Nathan hasn't quite decided where he wants to lay that down. For the cost of 1, it's got an incredible body associated with it. It's a 2/2 warrior with a couple command icons, but as an action, either player can invest 2 resources to purchase control of it. Looks like Eldorath is, I believe, entirely out of resources at this point, and it's just 1 resource remaining for Packmaster Kith. At planet number 1, that Slith Mercenary is potentially going to be able to do quite a bit of damage, and of course 2 command icons trumps 1, so it's going to be up to where exactly do our players want to send their respective warlords. Planet number 1 isn't really feeding into a victory condition anytime soon. The earliest we could see a victory condition, whether through red or green, is still planet number 4, but planet number 5 is also another red icon. So let us see here. If Eldorath were to go to planet number 2, he'd maybe be able to kill off that copy of Incubus Warrior. He'd win that fantastic battle ability of picking one of the top 3 cards of his deck to be added to his hand, and he'd also be able to move he'd either be able to leave his Wild Rider squadron there at that planet, or move them to where Siren Zithlex is located, or Eldorath, currently he's got 6 units, and Kith has got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. So even if Eldorath were to show up at 3 and kill Siren Zithlex, if Kith were to not generate another unit, he might be able to trigger that battle ability, but a lot of this is kind of going to have to do with what is going to be happening at planet number 1 in regard to how many units is Kith going to be losing. Kith did generate a Chimera at planet number 5, and Eldorath shows up at planet number 3. He exhausts Siren Zithlex, and that means planet number 1 is going to be won, command struggle-wise, by Kith. So that is going to be 2 resources for her. Planet number 2 is going to be a couple of cards for Kith. Planet number 3 is going to be a card and a resource for Eldorath. Planet number 4 is going to be a card for Eldorath. The 2 command icons beats the 1 on that Void Pirate. I forget if I happen to mention if that was a command struggle won by Kith the previous turn. I do believe it was. And then planet number 5, Kith is going to win a card and a resource. So Eldorath currently has initiative at planet number 1. He's going to have an opportunity here to swing. It's entirely possible that he could do something like he could swing, kill one of these units. He'd take a hit in response, or in return, and then maybe Kith would have to either retreat with her unit at the end of the first combat round, or otherwise suffer another attack. And it's either like Kith is going to have to use a significant bit of shielding to win this battle, or Kith is going to have to throw it away. Like a 2 shield value card would be required to spare the Slith Mercenary at planet number 1 should that Starbane's Council attack it for just 3. So this is going to be some interesting decision making here. It's the Chimera token, so it looks like Rick is going to go for the sure kill, because that would have required the signature attachment being discarded to save it. Starbane's Council takes no more than a single point of damage from the Slith Mercenary thanks to the interjection of a drone defense system, an absolutely fantastic attachment that is meant for the Wild Rider squadron, probably beyond any other unit. For the cost of 1, it allows you to exhaust the attached unit to deal 2 points of damage to each exhausted enemy unit. And in the context of Packmaster Kith running probably no units that have more than 2 HP. That is just absolutely fantastic. So both of our players decide to stay. Starbane's Council swings. That is going to be a copy of Raid discarded, and that means the Slith Mercenary only takes a single point of damage. The Slith Mercenary swings. Do we have another 1 or 2 shield value card for Rick? Does he really want to win this planet? I guess if Rick does not end up shielding, that's going to be one of his units routed, but he does discard a card. It looks like a copy of Subdual, which is a 1 shield value card, so his Starbane's Council is nearly dead, and normally that allows you to put an attachment or support on top of its owner's discard pile. Definitely not my favorite card in the world, but it's a tech choice that Rick used, and if you can unexpectedly remove your opponent's opportunity to use like a Chimera Den or a Forward Barracks or Troop Transport or Xemian Orbital City or any number of other effects, that can be an incredibly nasty card and incredibly unexpected, and as glare is removed, we can confirm that that is indeed Subdual. So we're currently about to come to the end of the combat round, and Nathan is being faced with a very difficult decision. Does he want to stay or not? If he has a 3 shield value card in hand, is going to be the only way that he's going to be able to win this battle outside of something along the lines of Archon's Terror or Clavek's War Leader. Do note that Nathan is going to be at that 4 resource threshold where he could potentially drop that unit into play and outright kill this copy of Starbane's Council, but he's got to be going over in his mind, or otherwise he's just feigning that he's got a card worth playing. Is it going to be worth picking up a victory at this planet? It'll be a red icon added to his victory display, and it'll be his opportunity to do something like rout that Vashaw Trailblazer to potentially net him another couple of cards the following round, or otherwise he could remove that Wild Rider Squadron, make sure that it has to be recommit alongside Eldorath, only to move planets thanks to its combat action exhausted. There's going to be that Clavek's War Leader. For the cost of 4 resources, Starbane's Council is going to be destroyed, and that is going to be a planet 1 by Nathan. So he's going to add a red material type icon to his victory display. That's going to be 1 green and 1 red for that fellow, and that is once again that Wild Rider Squadron remove. So it looks like Kith is trying to establish a stranglehold economically against Eldorath, while at the same time removing the powerful combat pieces here. So we've got a battle at planet number 3, same Han Kinsman, still at a green planet, deals 2 points of damage to Siren Zithlex, and then Eldorath finishes the fight there. So Siren Zithlex is going to be killed, and that is going to be a total of 5 units for Eldorath, and it's going to be a total of 5, 6, 7 units for our Dark Eldar players. So even without dropping that Clavek's War Leader into play, that still would have been sufficient for Taurus to be triggered. So is it going to be resources, or is it going to be cards for Rick? It certainly seems like he's got a large number of cards in hand, and it seems like the answer is resources. So he's going for that just to make sure that he can dump some economy units and combat units back onto the table, that he can enable himself to use some sort of abilities here. And interesting it is that Nathan hasn't managed to come into any copies of Foretell to cancel battle abilities. So it looks like, I believe, that we see Karnath triggering the battle ability of Eloith. So that's going to be Nathan taking a look at the top 3 cards of his deck. He gets to choose one of those to add to his hand and then put the remaining 2 at the bottom. Note that that national champion trophy there is sitting on the table. That's what our players are playing for. And I'm pretty sure that those elbows belong to Brad Andrews, our Conquest LCG lead designer there. But of course, I've not commit his arm shape to memory when I had the chance to meet him at the 2015 World Championships. But we go through another HQ phase. 2 cards, 4 resources for each of our players. The initiative token once again bounces back to Packmaster Kith. Note that each planet is oriented toward the player that is going to be holding the initiative token when that planet is the first planet. Our new first planet is Eloith, 2-card bonus. It allows you to look at the top 3 cards. And our new 5th planet, our last planet, the 7th planet, whatever you want to call it, is going to be Ossus 4, the Steal a Resource planet. So all the information is out there. Kith is going to be doing a deploy action. That is going to be another copy of Raid. I believe that is all 3 copies. That's -1 resource for Eldorath, and Rick basically gives one of his resources to Nathan there on the right. That Clavex War Leader is going to be, man, a lot of resources invested in a 3/3 with a couple of command icons that's going to be showing up wherever Packmaster Kith goes exhausted. And I think a rather wise choice for Packmaster Kith would be to send... she could send her Warlord to, say, planet number 2 or 3, because 2 directly feeds into her victory condition, and 3 could be her earliest possible victory condition. But there is a 2/2 and a 1/1 at planet number 2 opposite her, and because Eldorath is quite clearly an Eldar player, who knows, maybe we could see a copy of Shuriken Catapult result in the Beoldhan Guardians there being able to attack for 4. We've got a copy of Murder of Razorwings being deposited at planet number 1 for the cost of 1. It's a 1/1 creature trait unit. We see a forced random card discard. That is going to be a copy of Warlock Destructor, a 2-cost 3/4 with command icon, and a 1 resource token upkeep cost that you have to pay during the deploy phase. And that's definitely not the best thing to lose when you're an Eldar player that's kind of being strapped economically. Planet number 5, at another green planet, we have another 2/2. Same Han Kinsman with a command icon, potentially going to be able to reel in a couple of resources here. And I believe it is Rick's deploy. So he's still got 6 resources remaining despite that copy of Raid. At planet number 4, which is another possible victory condition for Kith, that's going to be 2 Chimera tokens positioned there, and now we see the Eldar version of Siren Zithlex. It is going to be Spirit Seer Erithal, so a 3-cost 2/3 with a couple command icons. When he's declared an attacker, you can remove a damage token from a friendly unit at his planet. Currently, though, he's alone, but he is an option for getting Nullify used to cancel like an Archon's Terror. At planet number 1, we've got another copy of Kith's Chimera Masters. Looks like that's going to be a very easy victory for Kith there, especially, considering the Incubus Warrior and all that business. Kith has dropped off a copy of her 2-cost unique support, Archon's Palace. Whenever your opponent wins a command struggle, you pick cards or resources and you basically nullify, negate, cancel, turn off, shut down, extinguish, exterminate, whatever synonym you want to use, the card or resource bonus that you've selected, including any and all modifiers, like that Void Pirate that Kith controls at planet number 3, if that were on Eldorath's side of the table, that is. And then Eldorath instead deploys a copy of his signature support, the 1-cost Aleatok Shrine. So when an Eldar unit moves to a planet, you can exhaust the shrine in order to ready it. So Eldorath could commit to planet number 1 and ready the Wild Rider Squadron that's going to be following him there. So what we could potentially see is we could see Eldorath show up and exhaust the copy of like a Chimera token, or there's a little bit of glare obscuring one of those units, but there's an Incubus Warrior that the Wild Rider Squadron could kill. But let's see where our players are going to go, because then that makes my hypothesizing a little bit easier, because everything is a known quantity. Eldorath goes to planet number 4. Note that Aleatok Shrine does ready that copy of Wild Rider Squadron. Kith instead goes to planet number 2. Like I was saying, that's going to feed directly into her earliest possible victory condition. She brings the Clavex War Leader and Wounded Slith Mercenary with her. Eldorath, interestingly enough, okay, so we see a copy of Foresight used now. Interesting that we did not see a unit exhausted at planet number 4, so it looks like our player Rick there maybe made a little bit of an oversight, but now Eldorath is going to be moving himself from planet number 4 to planet number 2, and he exhausts the freshly spawned Chimera token that Kith dropped into play. Planet number 1, by the way, is going to be a couple of cards for Kith. Planet number 2 is going to be a total of 3 command icons for Eldorath, so that is a card and a resource for Eldorath, although Archon's Palace could shut off any of these at any moment. Planet number 3 is going to be a card for Eldar, and planet number 4 is going to be a card and a resource for Eldar, and planet number 5 is going to be a couple of resources for Eldar. So, choke as hard as he may try to, it looks like Rick, well, as hard as Kith is trying to choke out Rick, it looks like just a great economic turnout here for Eldorath. After all, that Foresight is definitely a hell of a card, and hopefully we're going to be able to see Rick do something in combat unexpected. So there's that Wild Rider squadron at 4, but it's only going to be able to move to, say, planet number 3 at most, and the Vashial Trailblazer currently at 3 is only going to be able to move to 2 at most. So what exactly does Rick have up his sleeve? There aren't really any ambush options to speak of. The card pool at the time of our players playing this game is the Warlord cycle and all of the Planetfall cycle and Legions of Death, so there's no, deep strike cards. Well, first of all, there's no deep strike cards on the table, but we're also not seeing anything used to enable our Eldar player to ambush units into play. But at planet number 1, looks like that's entirely uncontested. That is going to be a second opportunity for Nathan to look at the top 3 cards of his deck and to add one of those, whichever is most favorable to his hand. An incredibly powerful effect, but that's going to be a large number of units being dropped off into Kith's discard pile. And at planet number 2, note that Vashial Trailblazer has been relocated from 3 to 2, which potentially exposes Rick to having that Void Pirate win a couple of cards for Kith the following round, unless that Wild Rider squadron moves away from 4 and moves to 3, and then it'll be another tie, unless we see a copy of Promotion or an army unit played or anything along those lines here. So Eldorath does not have initiative, so Kith as a 2/6 is going to have a chance to swing first at Taurus, but then Eldorath has got 3 units that can attack for 1, and 1 unit which can attack for 2. And considering the Chimera token is a 2/1, and the Slith Mercenary is a 2/1 because it's damaged, and the Clavex War Leader is a 3/3, there's still quite a bit of damage that Eldorath is going to be able to do, even without the benefit of getting that Wild Rider squadron from 4 to planet 2, and of course there's no Wild Rider Viper or anything along those lines. But planet number 1 looks like Nathan did finally decide upon something. That is going to be a blue technology type icon added to his victory display, and that is now 1 of each. So he's not exactly close to a victory condition, despite having collected 3 planets at this point, and now that is going to be a large number of units in his HQ. I happen to forget that Murder of Razorwings was the glare-obscured final unit positioned at planet number 1, and now let's see what is going to be happening at planet number 2. If Rick has a copy of Shuriken Catapult, and, Nathan doesn't have anything like Archon's Terror to answer that. I guess first of all worth noting is that I don't see any resource tokens for our Dark Eldar players, so I suppose something like Shuriken Catapult is going to be unanswerable, and if Kith leaves herself exhausted, we could potentially see a double Shuriken Catapult, and that would be a a double a 7 attack value Bealtan Guardians. But here I'm thinking about all sorts of complicated stuff, and instead we see something very simple. It's a Warlock Destructor being returned to play through Gift of Isha, played by Rick Reinhart. So interesting that he would decide to do that now. I suppose maybe he's trying to convince Packmaster Kith to retreat, although keep in mind our current planet number 3 is Iridial, the healing planet, and that Warlock Destructor is going to be a 3/4. So Nathan was asking a question about the next topmost Eldar faction unit, which it's looking to be a Starbane's Council. So is Kith potentially going to be retreating from this planet or not? Kith has got initiative. Let's say worst case scenario for Kith is she swings at something and then she's exhausted. And if whatever she swings at is shielded, that could be 2, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage among all of those units being directed toward either Kith or any of those little army units. It could be the Warlock Destructor killing the Clavex War Leader, Bealtan Guardians kills the Slith Guardians, the Vashial Trailblazer killing the Chimera token, and then 3 points of damage between the Samehan Kinsman and Eldorath to Packmaster Kith. I can't quite tell how many cards Nathan has in hand, but I can only imagine it is a few. and he's been able to pick and choose a couple of times thanks to Elowith what exactly he wants. So I don't know if one of those was maybe Archon's Palace. There's really no saying here, but Kith decides to retreat, and it looks like all the lives of those Dark Eldar faction units are going to be essentially forfeit. So interesting indeed that we saw Warlock Destructor used as a bit of a scare tactic. Chimera token is going to be annihilated from the Bealtaine Guardians, that militia force there is very effective, and now that Clavax War Leader is going to be killed, and then the Slith Mercenary is also going to be killed, so it's interesting that we basically saw the 4 resource tokens invested in that Clavax War Leader to do the equivalent of a single point of damage to a signature arm unit. At the end of the phase, the Warlock Destructor there is going to be vanishing, and that is going to be another activation of Taurus, resulting in 3 cards drawn by Eldorath. We've got the Wild Rider Squadron moving from planet number, well, I'll just use the current planets, from 3 to 2 there, as opposed to from 4 to 3. But I suppose either way is correct whenever you, depending on when I'd have said it. The initiative token is now once again in our Eldar player's possession. He's still 1-0 planets, but he's now positioned rather pretty well, actually. So 2 cards, 4 resources for each of our players. Our unit count was, it was 7 versus 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 7 versus 9. So Kith did fall victim to another Taurus activation, which I believe is maybe the 3rd time this game so far. Twice for cards, once for resources. And that is just absolutely devastating when you're trying to choke out your opponent. Now the problem for Kith is wherever she ends up sending her units, she is going to be, well, wherever she goes. Yep, that was exactly what I was going to talk about. Drone Defense System is currently on the Wild Rider Squadron at 2. So the earliest possible victory condition for Rick is going to be planet number 3, but if Kith goes to 1 or 2 or 3, if she doesn't have one of her 2 remaining copies of Archon's Terror, she is going to be subjected to Drone Defense System annihilating a Chimera token, a Murder of Razor Wings, an Incubus Warrior, and a Chimera Master, and if Kith herself is exhausted, then she'll take a couple of points of damage as well. So now Kith has got to choose very carefully indeed where exactly she wants to send herself. Kith, if she were to, say, show up at planet number 3, she'd have to have some of her units attack and kill off Erythal, and then we could see the Wild Rider move to that planet. So just absolutely fascinating how tables have kind of turned here. At planet number 1, another copy of Kith's Chimera Masters adds 2 units to Kith's total, and then we've got another copy of Starbane's Council entering the battlefield at planet number 1, so that's another potentially 5 attack value unit. Rick has initiative again, but now he's got other units that can attack prior to the Starbane's Council. So let's see how things are going here. Currently, our players are positioned in that Eldar is winning command on 3 out of the 4 planets, but Archon's Palace is going to be able to shut off some of those, and then wherever our players decide to send their respective warlords, that could also kind of interfere with things as well. If Kith goes to planet number 1, everything that she controls is going to be absolutely annihilated from her HQ, owing to the formidable Eldar combat presence at 1, plus the Wild Rider Squadron, which can, if need be, opportunistically swoop in and annihilate things. Kith could go to planet number 2, but then the same thing could be said again, and then if Kith goes to planet number 3, again, that Wild Rider Squadron can just do an incredible amount of damage, and I suppose just for Kith's sake, she'd better hope that she's managed to get a copy of Archon's Palace. Kith is going to have to pick up 2 more planets. Like, she'd have to pick up planets 2 and 3 to win through red or blue icons, and she'd have to pick up planets 2 and 4 to win through green icons. So now it's going to be up to Rick to kind of block his opponent to try to continue to win as much economy as he can and to leverage his far more hardy and more area effect damage friendly units to seal a win here against Kith. Fascinatingly, it's going to be a copy of Same Han jet bike attached to the Starbane's Council at planet number 1, and what's fascinating about that play is that 2-cost attachment is going to allow it to move positions as a combat action to a planet which shares a type with its current planet, so it could move from planet 1 to any other planet on the battlefield, and you get to deal a point of damage to an army unit in the process, so it can opportunistically swing. Alright, so Eldorath shows up at 2, and we see a copy of Foresight. So is Eldorath going to be a bastard and show up to 3? Yes, he is. So fascinating how the tables are indeed turning. So at planet number 1, we're going to be seeing a battle at planet number 2. That's an exhausted Void Pirates. That's going to be command 1. So let me do my command struggles, and note that there's now a freshly spawned Chimera token being exhausted because of Eldorath's positioning himself thanks to his signature event. Planet number 1 is going to be a card and a resource won by Eldorath, but do note that Archon's Palace is a thing. Planet number 2, that is going to be a card won by Eldorath as opposed to neither player winning anything. Planet number 3, it's going to be 2 command icons versus 1 command icons. That's going to be a card and a resource won by Rick. And at planet number 4, looks like that is where Archon's Palace is going to end those command struggle gains. And it looks like Rick's gains were denied, not from a lack of time at the gym, but instead he's being starved of a couple of resources that were otherwise owed to him thanks to winning a command struggle uncontested at planet number 4. So here is where my heart tells me that things may go all the way bad for poor Packmaster Kith. At planet number 1, we see Vashia Trailblazer relocate to planet number 2 to be able to win command. So at planet number 1, we've got a 2-2 and a 1-1 on initiative, being able to potentially clear out whatever Kith has left. And then we've also got a copy of Starbane's Council, but if it leaves itself ready and having not attacked, it's going to be able to maybe shift position to planet number 3 and score a swing of 5. Maybe against Packmaster Kith, so we'll have to see what exactly is going to be happening. The more bodies that Eldorath can dump onto planet number 3, the better for him, because if he can ensure that all of the enemy units are going to be exhausted prior to his moving his Wild Rider squadron from 2 to 3, then his drone defense system processing is going to be all the more devastating, so things are starting to look increasingly difficult for poor Nathan Gardner there to the right. Card Game DB user Warfather, a true pillar of the Conquest LCG community, and I suppose if you ever want to harass Rick Reinhart, he's username PapaCon on, I believe, Card Game DB, but at the very least, Octagon. So let's see. We're going to see battles at planet number 1 and planet number 3, and I frankly cannot wait to see how either of these are going to be resolved, because there's going to be a lot of killing going on for sure. Planet number 1 looks like Eldorath has got a total of 5, 6, 7, 8 army units, presuming that both of the Dark Eldar units at planet number 1 end up being killed. Kith has still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 6, 7, 8, 9 units in play, and unless my memory is very fleeting indeed, I believe that will be enough for Eldorath to end up winning Taurus. And what really sucks about Packmaster Kith is if Packmaster Kith ends up killing anything about planet number... if she ends up killing anything at planet number 1, then it's just going to make it essentially guaranteed that Rick is going to be able to trigger Taurus. And if that happens a 4th time, then that seems like it's going to be all essentially just inexcusable. So, Samehan Kinsman swings for 2. Chimera token is not shielded for 2, therefore it is killed. Kith's Chimera Masters are going to be attacking Starbane's Council for 1. Do we see a shield card or not? We see a copy of Doom discarded as a shield, which is a 4-cost deploy action, destroy all non-unique units in both players' HQs, and then Starbane's Council swings for 3. That's going to be a dead copy of that Chimera Masters. Now we see the Samehan Kinsman exhausted. Very nicely done. That is the Aleatok Shrine. Totally forgot about that card interaction, I must confess. The Aleatok Shrine readies the Starbane's Council as it is shifted from planet number 1 to planet number 3. That's going to be Kith's Chimera Masters being dealt a point of damage from the effect there of the Samehan Jet Bike. So that is currently going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units for Eldar versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 units, I guess, controlled by Dark Eldar, and that is going to be yet another opportunity for our Eldar player to activate Taurus. Is he going to pick cards for a third time, or nope, it looks like it's going to be cards twice and resources twice. Taurus is finally going to be added to the victory display of Rick, and that's going to be a red and a green planet type icon in his victory display, and now all he's going to have to do is win another couple of red planets or another couple of green planets or win the battle at the last planet, and the game is suddenly going to be his. So what exactly are we going to be seeing? We see a copy of Gift of Isha Recur, a Warlock Destructor, and interestingly enough, this is going to put Kith between a rock and a hard place, because even if she were to use a copy of Archon's Terror to remove that Wild Rider Squadron, now she's got a copy of Gift of Isha, having recurred a Warlock Destructor, and it's going to be very difficult for her to deal with that. Warlock Destructor as a 3/4 takes a swing. That is going to be a dead ready copy of a Chimera token that's ineligible for molestation at the hands of a drone defense system, or should I say it like the scorching ion fire, or yeah, it's ion fire, ion rifle. At least I think it's like burst lasers, ion technology. Anyway, point being that things are looking grim for poor Packmaster Kith, which I never really thought that I would hear myself say, given her dominance of our meta. But Chimera token takes a swing. What is it going to be attacking at? What kind of sucks again for Kith is Spirit Seer Aerithal is present at this planet. Whatever the Chimera token damages, Aerithal is going to be able to attack and remove a point of damage from that unit. We've got Eldorath, and we've also got Spirit Seer Aerithal. Both of them are unique units. Eldorath is less valuable and therefore a better user of Nullify. Nullify could handily counter a copy of Archon's Terror, and last time I checked, it's only going to be 2 resources for Kith, so she's only going to be able to use 1 copy of that, even if she is holding 2. Spirit Seer pulls a point of damage off of Starbane's Council, Chimera token is destroyed, and now that is a lot of exhausted units under Kith's control, and man, things are looking better and better for that Wild Rider Squadron to swoop in, and if that activates, it may as well be GG right there. Kith retreats from that planet. There we see the Wild Rider Squadron swoop in. There is no Archon's Terror. That is a lot of dead Chimera tokens, and that is too many dead units for me to count. All of a sudden, we went from something like 11 Dark Eldar-controlled units to 2, ladies and gentlemen. Eldorath bounces back to his HQ. Karnath is going to trigger. That is going to be a resource stolen from Kith. It's going to be a resource added to Rick's pool, and now I do not favor our Dark Eldar players' odds of recovery. Both of them get 2 cards and 4 resources because we've gone through yet another HQ phase, but we've got a 2-command icon unit at planet number 1. It's a 1/1. Void Pirate is going to be a 0/1, and that's all that Kith is going to be able to bring to the table here. That Wild Rider Squadron, whether it uses drone defense system or not, it's likely going to be able to do a significant bit of damage one-on-one to Packmaster Kith. It's a 3/4, she's a 2/6, she can also generate a 2/1, but if Kith shows up at planet number 2, she's going to be essentially signing a death sentence. If she shows up to planet number 1, Starbane's Council is going to be able to move from 2 to 1. If she shows up at 3, the Wild Rider Squadron is going to be able to back up that 2/2 Same Han Kinsman, and of course, it's worth noting that our Eldorath player has got 8 resource tokens and a lot of cards in hand with which to start filling the board with combat units here. So, if Eldorath ends up winning planets 1 and 2, that is going to be the game for him, and then that will be a national championship title going to Rick Reinhart. So, what exactly are we going to be seeing? The initiative token is going to be in the possession of our almighty Packmaster. She's got some difficult decisions here to make, but what exactly is she going to be deciding to do? She's only got 5 resources. One of those is going to be a woefully ineffective copy of Rogue Traders, so maybe that indicates that Packmaster Kith is going to be showing up at that planet. It's a 1-cost, 1-command icon, 0/1. 1 that gives a +1 resource bonus. If Eldorath shows up at that planet, that's going to be another command struggle won by Eldorath. Planet number 1 may as well seal the victory, well, not victory condition, but it's going to be really difficult for Kith to win at planet number 1 because now we see a copy of Starbane's Council positioned at that planet, in addition to the Wild Rider Squadron, which can move to any planet on the table at present, and that copy of Starbane's Council at 2 does not have the ability to move itself to planet number 3, but it certainly has the opportunity to back up planet number 1. And therefore, it's going to be back to our Dark Eldar player right now, so what is he going to be able to do? He's allied with Chaos, so therefore one of the cards that he's likely including in his deck against Broderick War and a meta along those lines is going to be a copy of Warp Storm, but Wild Rider Squadron, that's Starbane's Council, those are now both immune to Warp Storm. Kith's Chimeras, her economy units are not going to be immune to Warp Storm, and for 4 resources, what can Kith bring to the table combat-wise? I think Kith has maybe run through at least 3 copies of her Chimera Masters. She doesn't have any copies of, Warlock Destructors at her disposal or anything like that. It just seems like things are getting more and more difficult by the moment for Kith, and fascinatingly enough, Kith decides not to deploy anything else. Maybe that's a Clavex War Leader in her hand. That's another copy of Starbane's Council, and that is going to be a copy of Mobility affixed to one of those copies of Starbane's Council. So, if Kith doesn't show up to planet number 1, that first copy of Starbane's Council is going to be able to, as a combat not as a combat action, at the beginning of the combat phase, mobile away from 3 to planet number 2. And I can only envision that Eldorath is going to be showing up at planet number 3, so at this point this game looks to me entirely almost unwinnable by Packmaster Kith, because what is she going to do? Contest planet number 3, which is outside of her opponent's victory condition, so I'm sure that Nathan is probably going to be holding out for some kind of miracle, but I definitely do not favor his odds at some point. And let's see, if Eldorath goes to planet number 3, that will be 3 planets worth of command, potentially won by Eldorath. If Kith also shows up at that planet, Kith will be able to drop a copy of Clavex War Leader into play, but if we're going to be able to see, here's what we could see. Let's say both players send their warlords to 3. Kith, with initiative, has to use her reaction first, and that is what we're going to be seeing. So we see a Chimera token generated. Eldorath is going to be able to use his reaction second to exhaust that Chimera token. So this is going to be a command struggle 1 on every planet. We see that Chimera token exhausted. Planet number 1 is going to be a card for Eldorath. If we don't, okay, it looks like Archon's Palace is not shutting it off yet. Planet number 2 is going to be a card and a resource for Eldorath. Planet number 3 looks like that card bonus, it looks like we've got a Void Pirate at that planet, so that was 1 card, 2 resources. Looks like we saw resources shut off at that planet. Kith won no command whatsoever. Now Kith is going to get absolutely annihilated at planet number 3 if she does not retreat, and again, I'm sure Nathan doesn't want to call out GG, but the game does look essentially entirely unwinnable at this point. All Rick is going to have to do is win planet number 1, then mobile he could mobile one of his units away from planet number 1 to planet number 2, but what he's risking is if he were to move his Starbane's Council away from planet 1 to 2, he would be risking the Clavex War Leader being dropped at 1, and then maybe by some miracle swaying the battle in his favor, but that Wild Rider Squadron at 2 could move itself to planet number 1, and then it could return the tide of battle in the favor of Eldorath. So we see mobile result in the original copy of Starbane's Council there, that OG Council, shift from 1 to 2, and what exactly are we going to be seeing happening at planet 1? Looks like it's going to be up to Nathan. I'm sure he's probably got maybe a copy of Archon's Terror or 2 in hand, but it's undoubtedly going to be nullified because of Erithal, because of Eldorath, because Eldar have drawn so many cards as a faction. Void Pirate on initiative swings for nothing. Doesn't matter what the target is because nothing equates to 0. Vashia Trailblazer normally isn't renowned throughout the sector for its DPS, but it does swing sufficiently hard to destroy the Void Pirate. That's going to be another planet icon of each color added to the victory display of Eldorath. And that is going to put Rick a mere one icon away from being able to win the game here. So it's all starting to come down to the wire. This is going to be 3 resources invested in a copy of Warpstorm, and that is going to be Spirit Seer Arathal using a Nullify. So for the cost of 0, your opponent is out a card in 3 resources, and that is 75% of Kith's income at this point. So that is absolutely devastating. It would have definitely threatened to kill those 2 kinsmen and the Bealtaine Guardians and harm Eldorath, but, you know, close but no cigar, I guess, on that one. Kith decides to retreat from that planet, and now that Chimera token and the Rogue Trader and whatnot are going to be entirely forfeit, and now it's just going to be going through the motions as we wait for Rick Reinhart to end up winning the game at this planet, and, yep, Wild Rider Squadron is going to reposition itself from 1 to planet number 2 as a combat action. That is going to be Ossus 4 triggered. Like, first of all, Iridial being 1 gave Rick the opportunity to heal one of his units, and then Ossus 4 being 1, that battle is going to be -1 resource for Kith, +1 resource for Eldar. Another HQ phase, spoiler alert, unless something goes incredibly wrong, if some miracle, stroke of luck occurs and Kith is able to hold out for a little while longer, this is our last HQ phase. That's 4 resources and 2 cards earned by each of our players. And now all we're going to have to see here is Rick is going to have to defend at planet number 1. We see a Warlock Destructor at planet number 1, and do note that Rick has initiative that is going to be all 4 resources invested in a copy of Solarite Avedis. 4 cost, 1 command icon, 2/4 unique, loyal, Dark Eldar faction army unit. As a reaction, whenever it takes damage, you can deal 2 points of damage to its assailant. It's also a flyer, but a Starbane's Council can swing for 5, cut in half, round it up to 3. And we've got a copy of Wild Rider Squadron, we've got a copy of Warlock Destructor. Both of our players send their Warlords to planet number 1. Let's see, Kith does generate a Chimera. Solarite Vetus is going to be exhausted. The Aleatok Shrine resulted in a unit being sent to planet number 1 alongside Eldorath, only to be readied. Archon's Palace probably shuts off resources, but planet number 1 is... Both planets' command struggles are going to be won by Eldorath, so it's a possible card and a resource at 1. It's a possible 2 resources and a card at 2. Eldar has 4 resources. I think he's still got 1 Gift of Isha left. Maybe he doesn't, but I think he does. And then it's going to be no resources whatsoever for poor Packmaster Kith, and she is about to get... just wrecked and torn apart, torn asunder at planet number 1. Warlock Destructor swings for 3. Chimera token is going to be dead. Kith is going to swing for 2. Directed at what? Spirit Seer Arathal is going to be able to peel damage off of units, and these Starbane's Councils are going to be able to attack for 5. Promotion results in Spirit Seer Arathal only taking a single paltry individual point of damage. Wild Rider Squadron moves from 2 to 1. It exhausts. Drone Defense System deals 2 points of damage to Kith, deals 0 points of damage thanks to the discard of a copy of Shadowfield to Solarite Avedis. That would have been great, because it could have been 2 points of damage to Avedis, 3 points of damage courtesy of a Starbane's Council, and if Avedis dies, she doesn't have an opportunity to trigger her reaction after she takes damage. So that would have been great. Warpstorm is going to be discarded, so that is going to be the Council swinging for a modified 3, dropped by 1 thanks to the discard of a Warpstorm. That's 2 points of damage dealt to Solarite Avedis, and now... it's just going to be up to our Eldar player to have a little bit of a heyday here. We see Spirit Seer Arathal deal a point of damage to Solarite of Vetus. 2 is going to be cut in half thanks to flying. That's going to be a point of damage removed from the Starbane's Council. Nullify is used to shield Spirit Seer Arathal, so he's sitting at 1 HP remaining. Warlock Destructor swings for a modified 2. Solarite of Vetus is killed. It's not going to be able to have its ability triggered. And now Starbane's Council swings for 5. That is going to be the GG right there, so congratulations to Rick Reinhart, the 2016 United States National Champion. So, a huge congratulations to him for managing to win this tournament at Origins. He is the USA Champion. So, supremely well played by both of our players. A very, very well played game by Nathan Gardner, and a tremendous thank you to Christopher Dale Bates for being good enough to capture this game on camera and to send me in this footage. So, thank you so much for watching. One last enormous congratulations to Rick Reinhart. Be sure to check the comments section of this video to take a peek at the specific deck list he brought to this tournament. But one last time, just a fantastically well-played game by both of these players. So the drone defense system was incredible. Mobility in the hands of an Eldar player was just unstoppable, and Kith was not able to establish choke. She wasn't able to conjure up enough HP, and the choice of bringing Chaos allies may have been great against Broderick War, but it was unable to take care of what the Eldar player brought to the table. So, thank you so much for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you've not done so already, share this video so that more players are going to be exposed to Conquest LCG. It's fascinating how our meta has shifted, so this game seems more vibrant and diverse than ever, and I can scarcely think of a better time than to dip one's toes into Conquest. So share this video with your friends. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm the Hive Tyrant on Facebook and on Twitter, and if at any point you have even the barest modicum of inclination to support my ongoing endeavor to continue to always cover Conquest LCG throughout the entire lifespan of this living card game, I would be honored, humbled, and deeply appreciative were you to make even the smallest $1 a month donation to my Patreon. But, as always, thank you so much for watching. One last congratulations to Rick Reinhart, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.